This is how someone who sucks at French would speak the language.
Bonjour, je voudrais une baguette, s'il vous plaît.
But this is how you'll speak French after watching this video.
Wesh frérot, je veux que tu me donnes un de baguette là. Qu'est-ce que j'attends? Plus vite là!
Do you want to marry your teacher, repeatedly consume refined white bread pulls, or chain smoke? If you said yes to any of those questions, c'est le temps d'apprendre la langue de Molière. Coucou, wesh la street. Moi je m'appelle Jean-Pierre, je suis beau gosse et je suis français. No, that's a joke. I'm not actually French, but my name is John Pierre. En tant que ricain dont les ancêtres ont probablement sauvé les Français pendant la Seconde Guerre mondiale, je suis particulièrement qualifié pour enseigner cette langue. In fact, I'm a French language and culture expert. I have a lot of experience as I've been robbed by a French person, I've almost been hit by many French cars, and a French juvenile delinquent threatened to kill me in the metro. And I know what you're all thinking, and yes, all of this did happen in Paris. Mais t'inquiète pas ma pouce, la plupart des Français sont trop fucking gentils, au moins si tu parles bien leur langue avec un bon accent. But this is precisely why a lot of beta males are afraid to learn French. They think that la prononciation is a cauchemar, but I'm here to tell you that it's not. Literally all you have to do is remember this short acronym, NTEZ FKD PEJ FRO, or Netezhvokpejfro. That probably means something in Polish. The N stands for nose. French has a lot of nasal sounds that are tough for foreigners to produce, like in the words fin, blanc, and putain. There are several guides on YouTube on how to pronounce these sounds, but they're all propaganda. Do you really think that French people can naturally make those noises? Unfair, no. The secret is that they shove random shit up their nostrils in order to clog their nose, often small pieces of bread, sand, or in extreme cases, cockroaches. As an American, I have pieces of McDonald's chicken nuggets shoved up there when I speak Francais. The T stands for throat. I'm sure you're all aware of the French noise that sounds a little something like Again, this is not a natural sound that humans can produce. Similar to circumcision, upon being born, every French baby is put under anesthesia and their hypopharynx is removed, thus permitting them to make this noise. Evolution, or God, only gave us the hypopharynx to prevent us from speaking French, so it is safe to live without it. As an adult, the best way to get it removed is to get a surgery done in Turkey. If you book through Turkish Hairlines like I did, you can get a pretty sweet 2-for-1 deal on the hypopharynx removal and a hair transplant. The E stands for eye. You must learn how to move one eye independently of the other in order to look at two things at the same time. One eye should always be on who you're speaking with, and the other eye should be on the lookout for protests and riots that could break out at any time when you're in France. If you can't do that, en este caso deberías aprender español. Es más fácil para los noobs como tú. Moving on to Z. The Z stands for nothing because the rest of the letters are silent like most letters in every French word. Now that you have a perfect accent, it's time to learn some vocab. Thankfully, most French words are the same as American words because of some nerd virgin history stuff that I don't care about. So let's learn the most important ones. Dragon is dragon. Violence is violence. Dominance is dominance. Va te faire foutre is va te faire foutre, and préservatif is preservative. So if you just speak American while following the pronunciation guidelines of Netezhvokpejfro, you'll already be speaking French. Mais fais gaffe, frérot, not every word is the same between American and French. You might be tempted to assume that a boy would be un boy in French, but it's actually un jarcone. You might assume that a car would be un car in French, but it's actually un char. Oh, and they don't say yes in French, they say oui, or sometimes si like in Mexican, but only if they're arguing with a fils de pute. To learn these differences so you don't sound like an idiot, you should click the link in the description and sign up for a free 7-day trial of Pimsleur. Moi, je fais une leçon de 30 minutes sur Pimsleur en russe et en arabe tous les jours, et ça marche super bien pour moi. Si tu le fais tous les jours sur la vie de ta blonde ou ton chum, tu parleras bien français dans quelques mois, ou tu peux apprendre une autre langue si tu détestes le français. J'ai déjà appris cette langue, mais si j'avais su que Pimsleur existait à l'époque, j'aurais appris la langue des baguettes beaucoup plus vite. En plus, je gagne de l'argent si tu t'inscris, donc vas-y mon ref, je suis trop pauvre. But no app will teach you the hardest part of French vocab, which is something the Frenchies like to call verlan. Basically, every single word has a normal form, and then a form where you mix up all the letters. For example, woman is femme, but it can also be said as meuf. Crazy is fou, but it can also be said as ouf. I is je, but it can also be said as ai. Here is a normal sentence in French. Je suis un homme et j'ai une belle femme. And here is the same sentence in Verlan as a real Parisian would say it. Ejuis nu mohe te yaj nu lebmeuf. The numbers are another thing you'll have to memorize, but thankfully they're super easy. There's just a few important ones you have to remember. They are 1, 2, 3, 8, 10, 70, 80, 90, 100, and 1000. For example, je suis né en 1998. And you should probably know 1792 because that's the year France became a republic and they'll ask you that on the citizenship test. So let's be honest, we're all learning French so we could one day move to Germany.
Quoi de la Pourquoi on apprendrait le français pour aller en Allemagne?
Ja, Französisch ist einfacher als Deutsch. Wenn wir Französisch lernen, können wir die EU-Staatsbürgerschaft schneller bekommen. Now let's speedrun grammar. There are 3 third-person singular subject pronouns, il, elle, and iel, and to make them plural you add an s, but they still sound the same. The first-person plural subject pronoun is nous, but no one says it. Instead, they drop the us and flip it around to be on. There are 2 ways to refer to someone you're speaking to in the second person in French. The informal tu you'd use with your friends, and the formal vous you'd use with new NPCs you encounter or someone you respect like me. French has conjugations. Ugh, but they all sound the same except for the vous versions, so just be disrespectful and call everyone you meet tu. What are they gonna do? France has no freedom like the US, so the worst they could do is smack you with un baguette. But I know what you're thinking.
Language sim, vous is also the you plural pronoun, so I need to learn those conjugations in order to address multiple people.
Ferme-la, mon bébé. Si t'as décidé d'apprendre le français, je suis certain que t'as pas d'amis. Tu restes chez ta mère dans le sous-sol toute la journée. T'as pas besoin de dire vous. Literally, don't even learn the conjugations unless you want to write in French. French people themselves don't even know how to spell their own language. This is a real message that I received from a real French person in their own language. Here is a list of other things that people will try to get you to learn, but you really don't need. The subjunctive. Don't waste your time, you can dance around it. These 2 things. They're annoying, and again, you can dance around them. The accent markers. It's 2024, your phone will autocorrect these for you. And finally, the gender of nouns. French has 2 genders, which is cringe. There should be more. So you've got to say un and le for masculine nouns and une and la for feminine nouns. But I recommend you just use one gender. You'll be right 50% of the time and you'll avoid the headache of memorizing which words are which gender. I'm a feminist, so I like to only use feminine articles. For example, je suis un homme dans un pays. J'habite dans un village et ma père aime la français. C'est très belle. And statistically, 50% of that was probably correct. If you're a nerd and want to learn French grammar to a high level, I strongly recommend you listen to some songs by the singer Weshden. She's basically the Victor Hugo or Molière of the modern day. So now you speak French at an intermediate level, but how can you improve from here? Well, you gotta learn Arabic. 50% من اللغة الفرنسية ب2024 بتحتوي على كلمات عربية. You've probably heard that hello in French is bonjour, but bonjour is a horrible slur. Nowadays, people use the Algerian Arabic word wesh, especially when they're speaking to elders. You've probably heard that to say I love you in French, you say je t'aime, but she'll cheat on your cringe ass if you say something like that. Instead, take the Arabic word kif and say something like La Roche, je te kiffe de ouf, wesh. If you follow every word in this guide, you'll speak French amazingly. Let's see a comparison. This is how someone who sucks at French would speak the language.
Bonjour, je voudrais une baguette, s'il vous plaît.
But this is how you'll speak French after watching this video.
Wesh frérot, je veux que tu me donnes un punaise de baguette là, qu'est-ce que j'attends, plus vite là!
Et mon ref, c'est la fin de la vidéo. Avant de partir, je veux juste avouer que je parle même pas français, j'ai juste mémorisé toutes les phrases que j'ai dit et cette phrase-ci pour l'expliquer. Dos vidania.